Why are you resisting? What are you resisting? What needs to change? How can you change it?
All right, Dejan. How you feeling right now?
I'm feeling pretty good, a little sweaty. It's hot as shit. We was just hooping a little bit. But I feel pretty good though.
What's the hardest thing for you about basketball, personally?
Um, Personally, probably just being consistent. Like, I kind of be falling off with it sometimes, so I kind of gotta just lock into it. Maybe like handles specifically. Could work on my handles a lot more. But I'm really a shooter, honestly. Shooting probably my strongest asset.
If you when you're like playing basketball and you have somebody defending you, what goes through your mind that kind of negates the fact that they're there? Like what goes through your mind when you're trying to score?
Honestly, I kind of don't even think about the person. I really look for space. Like I look for where I could land my feet at, kind of just like my footwork. Like I know if I want to drive, like I'm just looking for a space that I can get through to where I can get there before the defender can get there, and I can get past him into the basket or whatever. Or even if I'm just gonna shoot it, I'm just looking for that space to get my form off without them really hindering it. Even if they close out, like if my form is right, I'm gonna make it. So yeah, probably just space. Like that's the main thing I look for.
How do you feel that getting space in basketball? So you said you really look for space. How do you feel like that translates to how you operate in regular life?
I guess kind of like when I face an obstacle, I don't really worry about the obstacle. I just find that sweet spot to get around it or to do whatever I see as the path in the moment is really just where I take it.
What happens when you're not able to do what you need to do, or do what you prefer to do in that moment? Like let's say you can't find space.
A lot of times I kind of see that as a moment as maybe there isn't a path for me in that moment. Like I kind of either just wait it out or I go a whole different direction and find something else. Kind of like on the court. Like if I don't see the space to drive, I'll just shoot it if I have that, or I'll just pass it or whatever it may be. Just find a different route, really.
What's the most difficult thing you've had to overcome in the past 3 months?
The past 3 months, probably probably grief from my cat dying, and maybe just being more open, just finding that openness and like not resisting things. Cause I feel like we all have like a resistance within us for whatever reason or whatever it may be. And I've kind of just been finding my ways of working through that and not resisting, just going with the flow, kind of just flowing with the river, if that makes sense.
Right. What time in your life do you feel like you resisted the most? And it took you a while to understand that you needed to stop?
Probably I guess going back to just being open with people. Like I feel like even now there's some people in some certain situations where I kind of just don't allow myself to be as open or as free or just myself at times.
How would you define resistance for yourself?
I would say resistance is kind of like that moment where like life is putting you in certain situations or showing you a certain path, and maybe you may not be fully aware of it or you may not be ready for it, so you kind of push it away, whether it's involuntary or voluntary. So like resistance for me is kind of just like going against the grain in a way. Like not in a good way, like you're going against society or anything like that and doing your own thing. it's kind of like when you're fighting against your own thing. You're fighting against self. You're fighting against life and the path and whatever the universe is trying to give to you in that moment.
Right. So if anything, yeah, like fighting your true self.
Yeah.
Yeah, like going against the grain in the opposite way. That's a good way to put it.
Kind of like just like fighting your purpose.
If you feel a lot of resistance, are there any like activities outside of basketball that you would go to kind of navigate that?
Well, mainly my main way is like through music. Like when I write my music, I try not to. I break through that resistance in a way. Like I realize I have to come to a realization of just being vulnerable and letting whatever's there be there, and just letting the song happen. Because a lot of times I write a song and I'm not even really thinking about it. I'm just writing words and they're just coming out in meaningful ways. And I'll look back and be like, wow, like I didn't even realize I meant that. So it's like, that's why fighting that resistance is, or not even really fighting it, just going with the flow. Just not resisting is so important.
Right. What's your advice? Let's say somebody has resistance to being themselves. What's like a tip, like a specific tip, like something that they could do that you believe would help them understand how to not do it? Because we all know that, or a lot of people know that they do resisting, but they're not sure how to even start to stop resisting, if that makes sense. Like they don't know where to start to stop doing that.
I would say kind of just tap back into yourself, like really discover and find what it is that you like to do and who you really are. Because when you're resisting, you're doing something that you're not. Like it's kind of like depression. Like I once heard like depression is where it's really your body's way of saying it's tired of being that character that you're trying to portray. Like your body's tired of you not being you.
Right.
So I kind of look at it like that.
If you had to have a conversation with yourself when your cat passed away, what are some things that you would tell yourself now that would have helped? I know you said a lot, about resistance, so you kind of probably already alluded to a lot of things you would tell yourself, but what's like a specific heartfelt thing you would tell yourself some months ago to kind of navigate that situation a lot better with your cat being,
I'll probably just tell myself to just keep my head up and keep just to stay strong, really. Like during that time I had to do my best to make sure he was okay, so his transition was as peaceful and as loving as it could have been, regardless of the circumstances. So I would probably just tell myself to just keep being me for him, keep being me for my mom, keep being me for me. Yeah, that's about it. Just tell myself to just keep being me.
What's your favorite thing about Edgewood?
My favorite thing about Edgewood, probably the peacefulness of it, if you can find it. I mean, there's a lot of it here. It may be boring to a lot of people at times or whatever, but I mean, you can find your own place in it. You can find your own peace and your own comfort. Especially, like I said, when you tap into self, you just find your own places where you belong, in your own fun, in your own ways. So I think that's probably my favorite thing about Edgewood. It's a place where you can really be yourself. There's a lot of room for growth, a lot of room for just you.
If you had to choose, would you choose the day or the night?
Definitely. I mean, it kind of depends on the season. If it's like spring or summertime, then probably the day. But I would say I'm probably a nighttime person. Like if I didn't have to like function and do a bunch of stuff during the day, like I'd probably be like nocturnal, honestly. I like the nighttime because it can still be warm, it could be cool. You can do whatever. It's more it's just cooler for whatever reason.
What's one thing about the night that stands out to you the most?
Probably Probably like the peacefulness of it. Like sometimes when you come out at night and you just hear like all the bugs and different birds and stuff, or crickets chirping, like there's like a zenness to it. Just hearing the earth like breathe or kind of be at peace for a moment is real interesting to me.
Okay. And the last question is, if you had to be the moon or the sun, which one would you be? And what do you feel like, whatever one you choose, what do you feel like that embodies for you?
I would probably say the moon, because I feel like the moon, even though it gets light from the sun, it can still light up the night, and it influences so much. Like it moves tides, it moves energy. I feel like it's way more of a emotional type of thing. Like the sun is just like the sun, you know, it's kind of like the standard, but the moon is more of a mood.